Well, the news is finally out. We finally got it.
We did.
The biggest, the most complicated driver puzzle in the entire paddock.
Absolutely.
The whole Red Bull and Racing Bulls situation. It's finally solved.
Yeah.
But while it's a relief to have the confirmation of the implications, they're pretty significant for one very popular driver.
Oh, they are. And this isn't just about, who got which seat. It's about the data, the calculated risks, and frankly, the critical mistakes that really drove Red Bull to completely overhaul their program for 2026.
A total reset.
Exactly. This is a reset that's been years in the making.
So our mission today for this deep dive is to go way beyond just the announcement. We want to know why. Why this specific pairing for the main team? Why was a rookie prioritized for Racing Bulls? And, what was the single event that ultimately sealed the fate of the man who lost out?
Okay, let's start there.
So let's get the hard facts out. Who's in, who's out for 2026?
Right. So for Red Bull Racing, it's official. Isaac Hadjar is promoted to partner Max Verstappen.
A huge jump.
Huge. And then at Racing Bulls, it's the next generation. ARVID LINDBLAD joins Liam Lawson. It's an all-new lineup.
And the unavoidable, difficult consequence of all those moves?
Yuki Tsunoda is off the full-time grid. He's staying in the family, taking the test and reserve driver role, which is still crucial, but his 5-year run as a full-time F1 driver is over, for now at least.
Okay, let's jump right in then. Isaac Hajar in the main team. This felt like, the worst-kept secret in the sport for a while.
It did.
But the sources we have suggest that Red Bull's top brass, especially looking at 26, they really did give Tsunoda every chance to stake his claim. So, why Hajar?
It comes down to a core philosophy, really. You could call it the Helmut Marko philosophy. It's simple. We don't hang about. If Red Bull is convinced, absolutely convinced, they have a blue-chip talent who's ready, not almost ready, but ready now, they want them in the top car immediately.
So no point in giving him another year at Racing Bulls?
Zero. There was no internal logic to giving Hajar a second year there, even for stability, if he'd already shown them everything he needed to in his rookie season.
That's a huge gamble, though, right?
Yeah.
Promoting a rookie after just one F1 season. What were the specific credentials, the data points that pushed him past everyone else?
His rookie year was sensational. Full stop. He was scoring points in 10 races.
That's consistency.
It's exactly that. And those points were critical for Racing Bulls. They were key to potentially locking up P6 in the constructors. But the really compelling stat, the one that got everyone talking,
It's qualifying.
his qualifying pace. Engineers up and down the pit lane were calling him the best qualifier outside the Big Four.
Wow.
That's a massive endorsement of just raw, out-of-the-box speed.
And it wasn't just the speed, it was the recovery, too. We have to talk about that rough start he had. That Australian crash on the formation lap.
Oh, yeah.
He was publicly emotional, got called out for it. To get that Red Bull seat, you've got to have the mental toughness.
Exactly. And Red Bull management, they love confidence, but they also really value honesty and resilience. Hajar, he kind of wears his heart on his sleeve.
Right.
When he made that huge rookie mistake, he owned it publicly. But owning it is one thing, performing is another.
And he did perform.
He scored points just 2 races later. He didn't let that mistake spiral. He bounced back, and, for most of the year, he was comfortably quicker than Lawson. That ability to take pressure and turn it right back into performance, that's exactly what Red Bull needs in that second car.
So if we just look at pure pace, compared to the guys who sat next to Max before, Albon, Gasly, Perez, how does his inherent speed stack up?
The assessment is that his core speed is, and this is the quote, outrageously high.
Outrageously high. What does that actually mean?
It means his performance peaks, his ability to nail a sector on fresh tires, his pace when everything is on the line. It's all top tier. The sources suggest he is potentially the fastest driver Red Bull has put in that second seat probably since Alex Albon's initial run.
Before the pressure really got to him.
Before the pressure broke him, exactly. So it's a huge vote of confidence in his raw talent.
And this is where the timing gets so interesting for Hajar, because he gets a sort of double clean slate, doesn't he?
Precisely. First, you've got the huge 2026 regulation changes. That's a total reset on the car's philosophy. Every team is starting from scratch.
So he's not jumping onto a moving train.
Exactly. It minimizes the penalty of joining a dominant team mid-cycle.
And the second benefit, which is maybe more subtle, but I think maybe more critical for his success, is the cultural shift inside the main team itself.
Yes. For the first time in a long time, the Red Bull team is being led by an engineer. The influence of Lauren Mecki is is significant.
And that shifts the culture how?
It moves it towards prioritizing driver feedback, towards stability. Previous drivers, they often walked into this high-pressure churn environment where it was all about results right now or immediate comparisons to Max. Hajar is joining a team that's now set up to offer a, quote, smoother transition. They're going to value his long-term input, his development, not just whether he's on the podium in race 3.
Sounds like an ideal situation for him then.
Right.
But his gain is 100% Tsunoda's loss. Before we dig into the mistake, I have to ask. For a driver with Yuki's potential, 5 years of experience, doesn't it seem incredibly harsh that one moment, one mistake cost him his entire seat?
It does feel harsh, yes. Especially when you think about how chaotic and unforgiving Red Bull's history with its drivers can be. But in this level of F1 decision-making, it often comes down to timing, logistics, and just momentum.
And his momentum was good at the start of the year.
It was. Tsunoda started his final push for that seat really well. He looked tougher mentally. He was immediately more competitive than Lawson. But that momentum was just completely derailed by one single event.
Okay, let's go there. The specific moment, the critical error that changed his whole course and gave Red Bull the pragmatic reason they needed.
It was the Imola crash in May. It was avoidable, it was unnecessary, and crucially, Red Bull had just given him the latest floor and bodywork.
The brand new spec.
The brand new scarce parts, specifically for qualifying. And Tsunoda attacked his first Q1 lap like the car was the same as it was before, like the spec hadn't changed, the rear broke loose, and it was a dramatic, very expensive crash.
Okay, but a driver makes a mistake. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
How did one Q1 crash in May become this season-ending catastrophe that cost him his drive for 2026?
It was a disastrous combination. You had the psychological impact and the logistical impact.
Okay.
Psychologically, it just shredded his confidence. He started second-guessing his driving for a few races after that. He couldn't push the car. But the logistical fallout, that's what this gets really interesting and, for him, fatal.
Go on.
Because those new parts were limited. You know, cost cap regulations, manufacturing time. The crash used up all the scarce spares. Meaning Tsunoda instantly fell behind Verstappen on upgrades. He was constantly driving a weaker, older spec car for 2 full months.
2 months.
From May all the way until July. And that created this irreparable imbalance in car spec and setup. How can you possibly compare two drivers when one of them always has the better car?
Wait, I have to stop you there. If Red Bull knew that the crash created a 2-month disadvantage where he was running an inferior car, aren't they equally at fault for setting up an assessment that was fundamentally unfair?
That is the essential question here, isn't it? And Red Bull certainly contributed to the scenario. But the management's viewpoint, from what we can tell, is that the avoidable nature of the crash used up the resource.
It was on him.
In their eyes, yes. They had given him the tool, and he broke it unnecessarily, forcing the team into that logistical hole. It wasn't until late July that they could consciously make sure he got the latest parts immediately, and that's when his form started to pick up again.
But the damage was already done.
The damage was done.
And even when the car specs were back on par, there were still consistency issues that just didn't meet that Red Bull standard.
Absolutely. The overall performance just never hit the ceiling they needed. He only outqualified Verstappen once all year, and that was in the Qatar sprint. He could be fast, for sure, but then he just vanished in the pack. Flashes of speed, but then poor tire management in Austria, for example, and that really hurt him. He just lacked that extra bit of pace to manage that tricky Red Bull car, especially when Max found another gear.
Okay, let's pivot to the Racing Bulls pairing. LINDBLAD and LAWSON. ARVID LINDBLAD is the name that Red Bull management seems incredibly excited about. Why was this? The 17-year-old prioritized so fast for a 2026 seat.
LINDBLAD's rise it's almost unprecedented. He's a British-Swedish racer. Red Bull signed him when he was just 14. 14. He is the youngest winner in both F3 and F2 history, winning a major F2 race at only 17. And Red Bull was so confident in him, they actively went to the FIA to get his super license before he turned 18.
So they were lobbying for him.
They were. It just shows this massive data-driven conviction they have in him.
So this promotion isn't just about results on paper. It's about their deep internal metrics.
Exactly. They trust their data completely. LINDBLAD ticked all the boxes during his FP1 appearances, like the one in Mexico. What really impressed them was his maturity, his ability to translate setup changes so quickly, and just the high-quality feedback he gave the engineers.
He didn't act his age.
Not at all. He showed the demeanor of a veteran, not a teenager. Red Bull sees him as ready-made.
And what about keeping Liam Lawson? I mean, he has a year and a half of F1 experience. Tsunoda has 5. Why keep the less experienced driver?
This was a purely pragmatic, forward-looking call. Alan Payne, who's a key figure in their evaluations, said that Red Bull sees significant headroom left for him to develop.
So they think his ceiling is higher.
They think he has untapped potential, that he hasn't plateaued yet, whereas Tsunoda, maybe he has. Lawson showed this unflustered pace, this calmness under pressure in places like Las Vegas and Baku. Red Bull is betting on that medium-term development curve.
So the dynamic at Racing Bulls is pretty clear. Lawson is there to be the stable reference point.
Precisely. Lawson is the benchmark. He allows LINDBLAD to have a strong learning year. It's an ideal pairing, really. The experienced hand who still has potential, guiding the hyper-talented rookie. It's all geared toward long-term stability.
Let's circle back to Tsunoda's future. He's the reserve driver. Is that a guaranteed dead end, or is there a real path back for him?
It is absolutely not a dead end. It's a huge disappointment for him, no doubt. But Red Bull values his knowledge.
Right.
As a reserve, he's constantly in the simulator, giving crucial feedback. And more importantly, Red Bull keeps the option to parachute him back into Racing Bulls midseason if a driver underperforms or gets injured.
He's the insurance policy.
He's the ultimate insurance policy.
And what about outside Red Bull, especially with that Honda connection?
The Honda link is key. Tsunoda was part of the Honda Dream program. And you have to remember, Honda is partnering with Aston Martin from 2026.
The potential landing spot.
A potential viable future path for him. It's not over, but the pressure is definitely on him to stay in the conversation while he's on the sidelines. And this entire 2026 decision, when you really look at it, it represents a crucial reset of its troubled driver situation for the whole Red Bull organization.
A reset is the perfect word. They're aiming for stability. They want to keep Hajar and LINDBLAD for, what, 2 or 3 seasons?
Yeah.
And break that vicious cycle, that revolving door.
And by choosing Hajar and LINDBLAD, Red Bull is signaling conviction. They see these two as maybe the most convincing data-backed juniors to come through their system since Max Verstappen himself.
Right.
And they had to make a conviction choice because you look at the 2026 grid, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, they're all locking down generational talent. So Red Bull bet on their youngest, fastest assets.
So this deep dive really leaves us with 2 incredibly clear stories. You have Yuki Tsunoda, whose high potential shot was completely derailed by one critical, expensive, and avoidable Q1 crash.
Right.
That led to a massive 2-month disadvantage in car spec. And on the other side, you've got Isaac Hajar and ARVID LINDBLAD, who are the beneficiaries of this strategic, data-driven management approach that's prioritizing long-term stability over anything else.
Exactly right. But here's the final provocative thought for you to take away. Isaac Hajar knows that the Red Bull car is historically much, much harder to drive than the more compliant Racing Bulls setup. And being Max Verstappen's teammate is often called the hardest seat in Formula One. So the question is, will Hajar's intelligence, his outrageously high raw speed, and this unique clean slate from the 2026 rules, will that finally be enough for someone to break the long-standing brutal curse of the Red Bull second seat?